Ecstasy by Jake Vitale and Ryan Schurr.
The name of my drug is ecstasy and has many different forms. It can be a hallucinogen, a depressant, and a stimulant. The reason it can be all three of these is because it can be laced with many different chemicals and drugs during the process of manufacturing. What is the use for this drug? Ecstasy is used to make you feel like you're on top of the world. It is a recreational drug that is very popular with young teens who like to party. The origin of ecstasy. First synthesized in 1912 by Anton Kolchak, who was trying to find a substance that could stop abnormal bleeding, while he was trying to go around a patent for a similar drug owned by Bayer. Alexander Solzhenitsyn is the first person to publish about using this drug to get high in the 1970s. A few forms of this drug: pills, powder, also known as Molly, a capsule form, and a liquid form. How are these few forms taken? The pills and the capsules are swallowed orally, while the Molly and the powder is snorted through the nose, and the liquid form is drank.
On this slide, I'll be talking about both the short-term and long-term effects of ecstasy. Starting off with the short-term effects of ecstasy causes seizures. A seizure is when there's uncontrolled electrical activity in the brain. Seizures usually cause a physical convulsion or many physical convulsions. The next short-term effect of ecstasy is that ecstasy causes dehydration. Dehydration is when there is a harmful reduction in the amount of water in the body. The next short-term effect of ecstasy is when the body has an inability to regulate body temperature, meaning the body gets very cold or the body gets very hot. And this is the main reason people die when doing ecstasy, because they die of hypothermia or heat stroke. The next short-term effect of ecstasy is that ecstasy distorts time and perception. It causes you to hallucinate and see things. You may not know where you are, and time might feel like it's going very fast, or time might feel like it's going very slow. The next short-term effect of ecstasy is that ecstasy gives you a lot of energy. It makes you feel very hyper. The next short-term effect of ecstasy is that it increases your enjoyment from touching. It gives you a sense like you have to touch everything and everyone, and you just find a lot of happiness and joy from touching everything. And the last short-term effect of ecstasy I'll be talking about is that it blurs your vision, causes you to have trouble seeing things, and makes your vision very blurry. Moving on to the long-term effects of ecstasy, the first is that ecstasy impairs your memory, usually causing people to have trouble remembering what happened, what they did when they were on ecstasy, and generally just causes memory loss. The next long-term effects of ecstasy is liver and kidney failure. Liver failure is when the liver fails to perform its normal synthetic and metabolic function, and kidney failure is when the kidneys fail to adequately filter metabolic waste from the blood. The next long-term effect of ecstasy is brain damage, and brain damage disrupts the main function of the brain. The next long-term effect of ecstasy is that ecstasy causes your heart rate to dramatically increase and substantially rise. The next long-term effect of ecstasy is that ecstasy gives you feelings of severe despondency and dejection, makes you feel very depressed and sad, causing depression. The next long-term effect of ecstasy is severe anxiety. Anxiety is a nervous disorder characterized by a state of excessive uneasiness and apprehension, and it is typically with compulsive behavior or panic attacks. The next long-term effect of ecstasy is insomnia, and insomnia basically is just the inability to sleep. And the last effect I'll be talking about that ecstasy has on someone is that it causes heart palpitations, and heart palpitations is the feelings of having rapid fluttering or pounding heartbeats, but most of the time heart palpitations are harmless. Moving on to the next slide, I'll be talking about street names associated with ecstasy. The first is a love drug, and this is probably the most popular name, and many people call ecstasy the love drug is because when you take ecstasy, it releases a chemical in your brain called serotonin, which is a chemical that makes you happy. And when extensive amounts of this are released, you become so happy that you love everyone and everything. The next street name is the hug drug, and I think they call ecstasy the hug drug is because, like I said in my previous slide, it increases your enjoyment from touching, so it makes people very happy to touch people and makes them want to touch people, or in this case, hug them. The next two are beans and Scooby snacks. The next is Skittles, and I think they call it Skittles because ecstasy tablets look a lot like Skittles. And the last two street names are Thizz and Triple Stacks. Alright, moving on, these are the warning signs and side effects of ecstasy. The first is that a person may be sleeping at irregular times, and their sleeping pattern is very irregular and abnormal. The next is that a person may not feel pain, or just having a lack of awareness of pain. The third is that a person might have or be connected with multiple sex partners. Next is a person has unusual levels of energy. They may be feeling happy all the time, and it just doesn't look right. The next is that they're acting very, very friendly, more friendly than they normally do, and it's just acting abnormally friendly. The next is that they have very enlarged pupils, also known as dilated pupils. The next is that they have consistent cramps in their muscles all over their body. The second to last one is if they're overly sensitive to music or lights. And the last side effect of ecstasy is that once they are done taking ecstasy and the ecstasy effects wear off, that they fall into depression. So moving on, I'll be talking about staggering facts about ecstasy. It's estimated that ecstasy causes or is involved in 50 drug-related deaths per year. The next is that in 2011, incidents caused by or involved ecstasy caused 22,498 emergency room visits. Next, that people between ages 18 and 25, also known as young adults, make up the highest percentage of current ecstasy users. In 2013, 751,000 people ages 12 and over reported using ecstasy for the first time. And basically, the majority of people who do ecstasy are people who have graduated college and are employed now and have gotten jobs, and they live in large metro areas like cities, and their annual family income is under $40,000. Alright, so the last slide is talking about where someone can find help with their addiction and hotlines that help them with their addiction. Both these help people recover from their addiction, fight their addiction, or stop their addiction. The first one is just a basic ecstasy helpline, and it will help people fight their addiction and talk about it with someone else. And the number is 1-877-367-2510. A great place for someone to get help is going to a substance abuse treatment center. This is basically a rehab center, and this is a place someone can go for a couple weeks or a couple months, and it'll help a person do activities and talk with people to fight their addiction and stop using ecstasy altogether. The third is a drug abuse recovery support group. This is like Alcohol Anonymous. People can go meet up together and open up about their problems and talk to people who have the same addiction problems as they do, and in result this will just help them fight their addiction and stop their addiction. And these support groups are a great way to support long-term drug-free recovery. And the last thing is a hotline to speak with trained professionals to help the person fight the addiction. Basically, the people will be speaking with other people who specialize in helping people fight their addictions and stop them from doing ecstasy or persuading them to stop using it and help them recover. And this number is 1-888-501-0970.